Hold on. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Inner Circle call today. We're doing another switch up today where it's going to be less of me and more of somebody awesome. Now that somebody awesome is trying to get into the room as we speak. So I do have him on the phone here, which I guess first and foremost, let's do a test of the sound. Can you guys all hear me? If so, I see there's people who are here live. If so, put yes in the chat box so that you can confirm that you can hear me and I make sure that I'm not talking to myself. Can you hear me? Oh, Eli, you can actually hear me. Okay, got it. So for those of you, oh, hold on. This might be part of the problem. Hold on. You cannot hear me? Question mark. Hold on. Let's make sure that this is working because sometimes we have audio challenges. Jason says he can hear me. So one more time, shows video available. YouTube only, says Robert. No audio. I'm in with Robert. Can see. I'm with Robert. Cannot see or hear. Okay, so everybody stand by. Rebooting computer. Be right back. Okay, so this has happened. It says we're live. Now my internet's going slow. Well, it may be waiting for me to initiate it. So real quick. All right, so we are back. All right, everybody, can everybody hear me? We should be back. Hold on. Can you hear me? See if this is working now. Bam, bam. Test 1, 2, everyone. Test 1, 2. Let's see if it's working. No, you cannot hear. Fozzie says that. Do not know what the heck is going on here. Nothing. I can see and hear you on YouTube. Says Latanya. The screen is black. Jason says he can hear me for audio and video. Maggie, you can hear me, yes or no? I'm trying to figure out why some people can hear me and some people cannot. Yeah, Fozzie, maybe you need to reconnect. So once and for all, if you can hear me, put a yes with an exclamation point very clearly. So Jason said he can hear me, but he had to open the video in another window. This is making me seriously consider the platform that we use. Yes, I can hear on YouTube as well. Okay. Joe says he can hear on YouTube. So how the heck do we get it on YouTube for everybody who needs to watch that? Can you put the URL of the YouTube link in here so everybody else can see that? Okay, so Maggie finally said yes. Awesome. Put the YouTube link in here for everybody else who cannot see. In the meantime, we're going to pull an audible because Eli is having a hard time getting in here. And so I'm going to put Eli on speakerphone. Eli, talk.
Hey there, how's it going?
Okay, so can everybody hear Eli? If so, put yes with 2 exclamation points. Eli, keep talking.
Hey, this is Eli Wilhide, good friends with my buddy Jeff Woods.
All right, cool. So got it. Okay, cool. So we should be, looks like we're doing a good work around here. Sorry, everybody, for all the confusion. I'm going to have a chat with this program and figure out why this is a constant issue. But I wanted to switch it up again today because how many of you, I'm curious, how many of you actually listened to the episode that went live today? If so, put the number 1 in the chat box because we're number 1. But you met my friend Eli Wilhide, who he's right here. Look at that. He is the number 1 producer for Tony Robbins. The only guy who brings in more business for the Tony Robbins organization than this guy on the phone is Tony himself. And Eli has been personally mentored by Tony directly. Eli sent me a text where Tony sent him a voice message just talking to him about how proud he is of him, and he forwarded that to me. So they have an actual relationship together. And Eli has been a friend of mine as long as I've been going down this journey. He's been riding shotgun, seeing the transition that I've been making. And I've also had the opportunity to witness Eli going into companies and give a talk, give a presentation about mindset, about motivation. And it's honestly fantastic. And so we were talking as we recorded the episode last week that went live today. I said, dude, you got to come in the inner circle and have a chat with my people and let's just drop some knowledge bombs on them. So Eli, prepare to drop them.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks so much for that awesome introduction.
You are welcome. So when you walk into a company, what's your big goal? Like, what are you hoping to shift for the people who are there, who are watching you?
Well, it's like by familiarity, when you go into a company, it's, they're looking for something different. And a lot of times if someone on this phone is a coach or someone doing a similar thing that's actually going there to generate business, they often got their own mindset. I'm trying to sell something, promote something, or you've got your own insecurities. When I go in there, my whole mindset is I really am so certain in the fact that they need it to break up the monotony. They need some new tools. They need to not talk to their own boss, to hear the same person over and over again. So the mindset is I'm going to add so much value. And as human beings, we fall into certain patterns. When people go home tonight or they're watching this, online, they're listening, how we eat, how we make love, what we do every day, we're in certain patterns. And as entertainers, as artists, as influencers, one of the things that we do as marketers is grab people's attention and interrupt their patterns. So when I come in, I'm seeking to interrupt their patterns of normalcy and really jolt their mind and body and attention in a way where possibly it could shift their whole entire life if they take the tools that I give them. So I'm going there. Really, the first thing is just with absolute certainty and just commitment and passion, not for my reasons, but for theirs. And I think that really helps open people up to what I have to say, because people feel that there's a different animation in your voice and your eye contact, and that goes from the front office lady all the way up to the boss. So you've got to do that prep work ahead of time. That's part of the research, if you will, is really getting associated to who these people are.
So let's do this, because one of the beauties of the Inner Circle for the people who are here live is there's an opportunity for interaction, even though they can't see your pretty face right now, which keep trying to make that work and see if it'll go through, because I'd love to make that work.
The Google voice and video, like a little box, and I click on it and it says that it's installed. Then I'm not able to get it. It's not doing anything.
All right. Well, then we're going to roll with this for now. I want to make this interactive. So throw a question out there so you can start to get a sense of what people are dealing with, because then I'll be able to read that off to you, and we can make this a little bit more specific to the people who are actually on here live.
Awesome. So now I'm in the webinar jam box, and just looking for some questions.
Oh, you can see the chat box.
Yep, I can see it now.
So everybody, if you have a question or something that you're really struggling with when it comes to mindset or breaking through to that next level, put that in the chat box so that Eli can see this, because I really want to make this interactive for you. And the more that we can cater this to you and your needs, the more value we're going to deliver here today. So while this comes in, Eli, because there's usually a little bit of a delay with the platform by the time they'll actually hear this, why don't let's just start speaking off the cuff. I'm putting a quarter in the Eli machine. Go.
Yeah. So, there's a mental framework. There's a few mental frameworks that I work with in this influence model, but really, I guess I'll touch on a few. There's several that I work with as mental frameworks, but I'll touch on a couple, and I'll go deep on one. One, if you're familiar with Tony Robbins' work, that I'll touch on briefly, is human needs. There's the 6 human needs, which are certainty or safety, and then there's a sense of adventure or uncertainty, and there's a sense of, you would say, like contribution and growth are the needs of the spirit. But so there's certainty, uncertainty. There is, I talk about these things every freaking day. It just completely slipped my mind. Certainty, uncertainty, growth, contribution, and connection and love and significance. And most people, you can tell from whether it's the front office person or the person that's running the company, what is driving the bus emotionally. And we all have different values, of course, but we only have, there's only 6 needs, and we all want to feel special. We all want to feel connection. We all want to feel a sense of adventure. We want to feel safe. We want to feel like we're growing. We want to feel like our lives matter, that we're contributing. So as I'm doing my mental work, the framework that I'm using when I'm going from the time I meet people, whether it's at, the past week and a half, I've gotten 2 of my own coaching clients at Whole Foods, just striking up conversations. And the mental framework that I use is what I call WOWD. It's WOWED. And the first W is just for who. Like, who are these people? And whether I'm at a Starbucks or a Whole Foods or going into a company to speak, I really get myself associated to who are these people. I did a talk for a financial services company yesterday, and there's a woman there contacting me afterwards, suicidal, and I just, not that I have to read minds, I just know that in a group of say 100 people, one person's most likely suicidal. One person is having a divorce. Probably 60% are going to be overweight. And if somebody's overweight or having these problems in their relationship or with their kids or with their own emotions, something's a little off. And so I make sure that when I go to interact with another human being, I've already done the internal work within myself. I've created this space where I've really got associated to who are these people. And while I might not know them specifically.
So real quick, I want to pause because I want to make sure that I also understand, what is the purpose of this framework? How does this apply to everybody? How will this help them?
Well, this framework is for influence. And I'll just give you the basic outline is this. It's like, who are these people? And then I create a framework. And so I'll expand each of these pieces. And then the next W is wound or pain. And then the E is expansion, and then D is decision. So the purpose of this framework is to interact with people in a way where they feel a connection with you, buy into what you're saying, and make a decision on the spot to invest with you, to join you, to be your friend, to do something. So it's an interactive communication that leads to potentiality for clients, or what has helped me make hundreds of millions of dollars for Tony Robbins at this point. So This is the mental framework that I use when I'm interacting with anyone that has brought people into our funnel.
So this is actually highly applicable, because we've got a lot of people in here who are coaches or consultants or have some type of a services business, whether that be they make funnels for people or they own a CrossFit gym. And ultimately, they need to be the rainmaker, and they need to close the deal and get people in the door.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. So yeah, so I get myself associated, and really, as I'm connecting with people, this is something that it took me years to get. I remind myself, part of my own inner work is just reminding myself that I'm going to be okay. I used to say to myself all the time, the sun rises in the east, sets in the west, and Eli Wilhite is going to be all right. So I remind myself that I need nothing. And whether I'm selling somebody or I'm in an intimate relationship, I help other people. All we are is, everybody on this call, we're influencers in some way. And as we want to influence people to, buy our products or buy our stuff, that's great. But we also need to be conscious of free will. And one of my roommate actually came to see me speak yesterday, and he was surprised at some of the mental frameworks that I set up in the beginning of my talks, or even when I meet people. Sometimes I don't actually say it, I don't verbalize it, but what I actually said yesterday was this. I said, look, everybody here, I don't know you personally, but I feel like I know you, because you're here on a freaking Sunday on your weekend, sacrificing time of your life where you could be with your family or doing something else, but you're actually here. It says you want to actually make your life better. And so, I feel like I know you. I feel like we're the same. And that's real for me. And then I said, I want you to know that I'm going to make some very strong suggestions to you that I think will make your life better based on my own experience and the experience of a lot of people. But whether you decide to take my advice or not, I want you to know that I care about you and I love you and I think you're amazing and you don't need anything. You're free to stay exactly where you're at. And that's okay. But if you'd like to move forward, I have something for you. And I believe that. People are okay. Not everybody's going to buy your stuff. Not everybody's going to, log into your thing, and that's okay. So I've got no neediness. People are free to stay exactly where they're at, and I'm cool with that. I'm not going to chase them down. And so that mindset becomes magnetic. So that's a part of the inner work. And I know I'm kind of skipping around.
So real quick, and just to throw you off even more, Jackie asked a question. She said, how do you work on yourself first so that you even feel like you're worthwhile to other people?
Well, that's the short answer is really just developing a relationship with yourself. Spending that time doing that work and doing a lot of journaling, self-reflection. And I take at least 10 minutes every day to just sit in silence with myself. I've done, one of the things that's helped me a lot has been something called Kundalini Yoga. And anytime that you're breathing, you're getting connected to your breath, you're moving. It's really nice just to build that relationship and that connection with yourself. And, every single person on this planet has a purpose. It's like some of my spiritual beliefs come through when I think of that, that we're all here for a reason. Not everybody has found theirs, but it doesn't mean they don't have one. So, you just keep on looking, and it's very easy for us to get distracted with, all the things on Facebook and social media. And, we're often comparing our behind the scenes with somebody else's highlight reel. So we compare ourselves to what somebody else is putting out there. And it's really easy for us to build ourselves up and start to tell ourselves that we have no value when, that's like the biggest slap in the face of our creator. We're all here for a reason.
Say that again.
And so sometimes
say that one part again about the behind the scenes versus the reality, because that was powerful.
Yeah, you can't compare your behind the scenes with someone else's highlight reel. And that's what social media has done. And I've been around some very successful people, and part of this framework, I was in Los Angeles about a month ago, and I know as I'm talking to people, as I'm talking to each of you on this webinar now, I believe that 95% of your life is perfect and amazing, and you're growing, and it's awesome, and I want to be your friend. But I also believe this based on my research that 5% of your life is fucked up. It's like you've got this pain, you've got this open wound. There's some area of your life that is not the way you want. There's a gap from where you are to where you want to be. And part of my mission is to help you, not to distract yourself from dealing with that. A lot of people, they're not really associated to what's not right in their life. So I'm like, hey, if you've interacted with me, part of my purpose is to, hey, let's handle this. Let's do something about it right now. And so that work, and I've had those experiences. So part of this inner work is really giving this relationship with yourself, being kind to yourself, but also there are some skills that you need to acquire. And to really, it's interesting. I was with my girlfriend the other day, and I'm very inflexible. And physically, I have very tight hamstrings, and I'm doing the typical hamstring stretch where you sit down and you try to touch your toes and all that. And she said, "No, you're doing it wrong." And she was trained for the Olympics, so she knows more than me. But she says you need to. She says that's working your hip, your glute, your ham, your calf. She says you need to isolate each piece. And so often in life we think about these big things that we want to do in the world, and it's overwhelming. So we just got to chunk it down. It's like you've heard the cheesy phrases. You can't eat an elephant with one bite. So once we break things down to the minuscule, it's a teeny little thing, it becomes digestible. And so even in my stretching, I'm working on different parts, just my calf or just my ankle, or and I'm working my way up. So once you start to get these skills, whether it's communication skills, coaching skills, whatever it is that you do, Jackie, you start to get some progress, and progress creates momentum. I was talking to Tony about Donald Trump a couple months ago, and it's interesting. This is as he was, really taking off in the Republican race, and he talked about when he had gone bankrupt. And Tony said, what happened there? He says, I lost momentum. Never will I lose momentum again. And love him or hate him, the guy's got momentum now. So as you start to learn some skills and utilize them, it's not just to learn skills, but you apply them, and you get positive reinforcement from your environment, because of the skills that you've learned, and you're actually contributing, it's meeting your needs. You feel this sense of growth and aliveness, and that becomes positively addicting. So that's the inner work that you're doing every day. So you're thinking about, I write down, this is something that I didn't come up with. Jack Canfield came up with when him and Mark Victor Hansen were doing the Chicken Soup for the Soul books and getting like 100 and some letters of like saying, no, we don't want it. But they just started to say, hey, 7 days a week, I want to write down 5 things that I did today that were awesome. Like 5 things that I did to get me closer to my goal. So for me, I even have like one right here from just yesterday. Or no, this is Saturday. When I went to bed at night, I wrote down 5 things that I did. One was I went to a Kundalini class. I ate very well. I made some money. Let's see here. I listened to some audio from one of my coaches. Oh, and number 5, I felt at peace today. So what we appreciate appreciates.
So
what we appreciate appreciates. So the things in my life that I want to have more of, money, love, connection, growth, my needs, I pay attention to them, and I appreciate them, and what we appreciate appreciates. So appreciating ourselves and the great part of ourselves is part of the inner work. Because, you can't give something to somebody else that you don't have. You can't give somebody confidence if you don't have confidence. You can't give certainty to somebody unless you have it within yourself. And really all selling is, or all influence is, for me, it's an extension of love. To really make somebody, feel like their own sense of self-worth. And I can't give that to somebody unless I feel it within myself. And so that's what's really going to make your coaching or your products, or you as an influencer, that you are not just a commodity. Your biggest asset is your ability to care.
So let's build off of that one, because there's 2 people, Robert and Maggie, both asked, and I'm just going to kind of combine them. What are some of the specific things that can be done to overcome self-doubt when it comes to a career shift. And Robert mentioned very specifically that you said that there were times when you had to overcome that self-doubt, and there was a specific shift that happened to go from overcoming that so you could get to where you are today. How does somebody who has that internal self-doubt, what do they do to get past that and break through?
Well, if you're familiar with some of Tony's work that I obviously I'm going to allude to a lot because he's my biggest mentor, but how you feel emotionally, doubt, frustration, overwhelm, success, ecstasy, it's all comes from the triad. And I believe just like we can condition our bodies to become strong, we can also condition our emotions. And so somebody could be physically weak or emotionally weak. And so self-doubt is a weak emotion. And so how do we build that certainty within ourselves? And that's the skill set of leadership. In times of uncertainty, somebody says, hey, move, I'll handle it. So they build that certainty within themselves, and they're not born with it. I think that they are, but success and confidence and certainty comes from putting yourself on the line consistently. When you've got the doubts and you do it anyway, and you step up and you prove to yourself. It's like we can't, there's no HGH injection for, real confidence. You can't buy $1 million or, a lot of people buy Ferraris and things like that so they can seem confident. But really it can only come from within. And what gives you confidence or alleviates your self-doubt, it could be totally different than me. But what works for me is, I've had so many destructive emotional habits in my own life that really took away my confidence. And when I see somebody that has self-doubt or lacks confidence, usually there's some area of their life where they're destroying their own confidence, where they have these incongruencies. And congruency means alignment. It's when you say what you say, and you say what you mean, and you mean what you say. Your words, your thoughts, your actions, your feelings, and your emotions are all in alignment with your higher purpose. And I used to get very confused about this because I'd see a very quote-unquote good man, a successful man, a proud man, maybe somebody like a preacher. And I would see this alignment within him. And when he spoke, there was an energy and a passion and a power behind his words because he was congruent. But then I'd see somebody else, like somebody in Hollywood, like kind of like a rock and roll star type, doing cocaine every night, banging 4 girls a day. And I'm like, man, this guy's totally different, but he's got the same confidence. Neither one of them had any self-doubt, but they're all speaking from their own truth. They're all congruent. They're all living in alignment with how they think they should be. And so I'm never here to tell anybody how they should do it, but I think that we all need to find our truth. And if somebody doubts themselves, they're often not living in their truth. And when I look around at the world, it's often people, they know they could be making more calls. They know they could be taking better care of their body. They know they could be not so reactive. They look back at their life, and or their week or their day, and they see that they're leaving a lot of potential on the table. And, I think that's part of the 10 minutes a day that I do. I visualize myself. I see myself like literally like I'm sitting in a chair, and it's like me looking at Earth. Like, it sounds quite like godlike, but even God, in my opinion, is not like some man looking down on Earth. But I see myself as that. I see myself disconnected from the entire world, and I think about me putting my dent in the world. And it's like with my words, with my actions, with my deeds, with my coaching, with my love making, I want my life to mean something. And so I really get associated to that before I even walk out of my house every day. And that gets conditioned, just like a muscle gets weak or strong. That emotional muscle becomes, very, very, very strong. And when I go to do a speech or I'm doing a coaching session, part of the reason that my certainty comes from, I know my outcome. And I'm more associated to the outcome than anybody else in that room. I'm the one speaking often, or I'm the one asking the questions. So I'm the one controlling the conversation. And this is part of this wild framework is this, and I'll just touch on it. Questions are part of the triad. So realize this, how you feel, the triad is this, and some of you are familiar with it. The first piece of the triad, so your emotional state is dependent on 3 patterns. One is your physiology, how you move and how you breathe. What you eat, are you dehydrated? Are you breathing full or shallow? That's physiology. When you're a kid and you're depressed and laying around, your parents say, hey, go outside and run. So just the act of moving your physiology, sometimes it's that freaking easy. But it's not something, you can do once a week or once a month. A lot of people just don't move anymore. And it's like, and they're looking to feel good off some caffeine or something like that because it changes their state, changes their emotions. So now the person becomes dependent of something outside themselves to make them feel good. And that's what also takes away our congruence and our confidence when we become dependent, on something outside of ourselves. But successful people who really have influence and impact in the world, they have an internal locus of control. A lot of people are externally motivated by cars or things, but successful people do things because of how it feels. And if you present them with an opportunity, they don't look around to see what everybody else is doing. They think, does that feel right to me? Because they're really in touch with that part of themselves. They've conditioned that part of themselves. So the triad, I'll go through really quick. First is physiology. Second is language and meaning. And then the third is focus. And something I do in my conversations is I ask a lot of questions. If you listen to Tony Robbins at a speech, he never talks for more than 2 minutes without asking a question. And he said, we all ask ourselves, is this all there is? And so I will subtly implant questions in people's minds, and I will ask them questions, control their focus. If I ask you about your mom, you think about it. If I ask you about your shoes, you think about them. If I ask you about the best day of your life, you think about it. If I ask you about the worst day of your life, you think about it. And whatever you think about affects your feelings. Focus equals feelings. And so when I meet people that have self-doubt or beating themselves up, they often have a pattern, a habitual pattern of focusing on something that is disempowering. They focus on something that is out of their control. They focus on things that are in the past. And we can't change the past. So the person always feels less than. And they're trying to pull their past into the present. If you want to go somewhere in your car and you've got your GPS, it just asks, hey, all it wants to know is where are you and where do you want to go? Human beings in their mental, emotional GPS, they say, here I am, here's where I want to go. But they bring all their past bullshit with them and all the story. It's like the GPS doesn't care. It's just like, where are you? Where do you want to go? But the human being, they've got a story about where they are. And they've got all this baggage. They got all this stuff in their trunk that is making it very hard for them to get to where they want to go. So it's just realizing that every moment that we're born anew, and as Eckhart Tolle said, got to live in the power of the now.
So I'm loving the direction this is going, and I'm kind of glad, just so everybody knows, Eli and I had a plan about what we were going to cover today, and we were going in a completely different direction, which is freaking awesome. And that's straight up because, like I said, we can perceive what we can bring the most value possible, or we can point blank ask you. You can tell us what you're struggling with, and we can deliver there. And so I want to encourage you all, the questions that you have, the things that you're really struggling with, unload them in here. You've got an opportunity to tap into a guy who's been the mentee of a guy like Tony Robbins. Let's leverage this. Jeff asked a question. I'll actually be really interested in your answer on this, Eli, and I may even flip it on you. How do you get yourself to focus on one business pursuit at a time for max impact?
That is something I'm working through right now. Is I've got 15 projects, 80% done.
This is his Achilles heel.
Yeah, this is, and so I've got a coach now that's kind of beat me up on that, and Jesse Elder, and he's really helped me out with it a lot. But my book, I got I've got a woman that's going to help me finish my book, and I can't. You would not believe whose book she has written. I mean, I can't believe these people. I'm almost mad once I found out the books that she's written for people that that I'm like, man, this guy didn't write this book. But anyway, so I've got that pretty much. So the long story short, as I was just as Jeff was just talking, my assistant was just leaving. So I'm delegating my little butt off right now. It's my, that's my own, insecurity and, there was giving people the responsibility. For some people, they just don't have the money to hire an assistant. How do you vet people, all that stuff? So there's a lot to that. A lot of people say, "Oh, just hire somebody." There's a process to that.
Yes.
So it's also it's really been great for me, being around people, because I've got the same excuses as everybody else. But I mentioned something to Tony not too long ago. And it's you kind of want to tell the person your excuses and you can't get it done. But Tony got, 18 companies, 4 kids, travels 275 days a year. And as I'm thinking of telling him my excuse, I'm just like, man, I'm such a bitch. And I'll never forget one time talking to Tony about this, this project that he wanted me to kind of spearhead and all this stuff. And and he could see in my physiology, he could see in my shortness of breath, and he could probably taste my fear as he was explaining to me this big, huge thing that he needed done, and all my internal objections about how it wasn't impossible. And as he's finishing the conversation, he just looks at me and he says this one thing. He says, Eli, at the end of the time to get this done, there'll be the results that we're after, or there'll be the reasons why we didn't get the results. It's one or the other. He says, don't come to me with reasons. Come with results. All right. And it's interesting, talking about focus equals feeling. What's wrong is always available, so is what's right. And we need to spend 90% of our time on the solution, 10% on the problem. Problems are there. It's not to say they're not there. But, focusing on one thing at a time is how we get things done. And now I'm fully associated to that. I'm like a laser beam on this one project that I'm doing right now. And it's crazy. It's something I've been putting off for a month. And the other day, it's like an influence product that I wanted to put out there. It's done already. So it's crazy. So I think it's time blocking and scheduling, and having somebody hold you accountable is the best answer I can give at this moment. Once I've actually had more success in getting things done, I might have some better answers for you. But that's it for me: accountability, coaching, reasons, not results, or results, not reasons, and just having a system and other people around to make sure it gets done.
And let me jump in on here, because I'm building a company on focus, in a book called The Two Things. The one thing. I think this is where Eli said at the beginning, it comes down to this certainty that he walks in the room and he knows the end result and he's so certain of it. I have found for myself personally in my own journey, the times when I am unable to focus down to one thing is really a matter of the fact that I'm not certain of the big vision, and I haven't taken the time to walk all the way back to say, if I can only do one thing, what's the one thing that I can do such that by doing it, well, everything else will be easier or unnecessary. I haven't broken it down to that level. And when you really do, when you narrow it down, like, I can only do one thing, what's it going to be? It becomes really easy. And I'll show you this right now. I've talked about this on, I don't know if I've talked about it on an Inner Circle call or not. But about 2 months ago, I had my monthly State of the Company meeting with Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. And they asked me to bring in my updated business plan. I'm literally holding it right here. This is it. And I walked in, and you'll see that there's 4 points on it, 4 priorities: priority 1, priority 2, priority 3, priority 4. And they're in order of priority, meaning number 1's most important, then number 2, then number 3, then number 4. And I walked him through number 1. He asked some questions. I handled them. We started to get into number 2. Halfway through number 2, he stops me and he goes back to number 1. I answer his questions. I get back to number 2. I finish up number 2 and I get to number 3. He stops me. He brings me back to number 1, asks some more questions. I answer him. I get back to number 3. And by the time I'm about to continue, he goes, stop. Let me ask you a question. Do you need to accomplish number 3 to do number 1? And I said, no. He said, okay. Do you need to do number 2 to do number 1? I said, no. He said, do me a favor. Put a line between number 1 and everything else and cross them out. Better yet, put them on a completely separate page and only focus on number 1. Don't do anything else until you are done mastering number 1. In fact, do a full business plan for number 1. This is the result. You will see page 1 says phase 1 at the top, and it just has priority number 1 right there. On the back side of it is priorities 2, 3, and 4. And look how small 2, 3, and 4 is compared to number 1. That's number 1. So if you're struggling with focus in your life, think down the road. Where are you trying to go? What is that goal that you need to be so certain of, and walk it all the way back to today saying, what is the one thing that I can do? Gun to my head, Jeff Woods is on my ass. He's only going to let me put one priority on the front page. What is it going to be? And you focus on that relentlessly until it is done.
I love that.
Hopefully that helps.
Yeah.
I am going to ask more questions to you, Eli, since
I love it.
Ooh, I like this. Jason, we may come back to yours because I think I just hit it. Maggie, oh, I love this situation. My primary job is a supervisory role in a very fast-paced, challenging pharmaceutical industry. I struggle a lot with high turnover because most of our positions are entry level and the work becomes routine. How can I increase engagement and people showing up for the day to day? I've tried the normal recognition platforms, but it always comes down to making more money, and I can't control that, nor do I truly think it would make people happy. I've got an answer for that too, Eli, if you want to take a first stab.
It's for me, even within the Robbins organization, or anytime I've had a job, one of my mentors, he sold his company a couple years ago. It's his name's Robert Heyman. His father is Fred Heyman, who just passed away. But he pretty much owns Rodeo Drive. And me being entry level, I really took it seriously, and I had some interaction with him that got me really associated to what could happen if I really was the best at it. So, I mean, at entry level depends on, I'm always looking to develop quality people, and certain people want to be entry level. To them, I try to make things fun and engaging. But if somebody is, has the potential to be a star, I make sure there's a carrot dangling in front of them, where if they really stay in that role and can help me hire new people, where this person gets this sense of ego stroke and satisfaction, and they become a leader, and they make it fun for everybody else, and they do some team building exercises. And that could be as simple as, writing down goals once a week, and things like that, where they can really feel that what they're doing is part of something more. So, as I've mentioned in the very beginning, people do things to meet their needs. So the 6 human needs are certainty, sense of safety, you're getting a paycheck, a sense of uncertainty, or adventure. So with a routine job like that, what can you do to build some uncertainty into it? Some fun, something unique. We're going to, everybody's going to wear a blue shirt today. I don't know, just something unique that bonds people together as a tribe. And then that gets to the next one, connection, where there's a sense of connection to the work or the clients or to the community there. And then the fourth is a sense of significance. Everybody needs to feel special. So maybe you acknowledge some certain people, or, make each person, you give them a little bit of time where they feel special. And then, the next 2 needs are the ones that I mentioned: growth, to feel like we're growing, and then to feel like we're contributing. So at an entry-level position, growth is probably not the number one need of those people. Not all of them. Some of them will want to develop, but some people you're just going to keep them there, and you are going to have to recycle through some people if they can't see that it's meeting their needs. So yeah, with entry level, I don't deal with a lot of those types of folks, but I always think when I go into organizations, what can we do to meet this person's needs? And at any point in time, we have 2 of those needs that are driving the bus. And for most people, the 2 needs that are driving 80%, maybe 90% of our society is the need for certainty and safety, and then the need for significance. Everybody wants to feel special, and everybody wants to feel like they're very special. That's just how people have been conditioned. Unfortunately, parents tell their kids that they're special, and then they try to do something, and they're not special, or they're not unique, and they're not the most talented one, so they quit. So sometimes telling kids they're special and they're unique is one of the worst things that you can do for them. You have to teach them certain character traits, and often this need that they're just meeting that one. But when you look at people, everybody feels like they're self-entitled, and so you got people that are leaving. It's most likely not meeting their needs, and sometimes it's the wrong people. Sometimes you need to make sure that you can do something to meet those needs.
So I've got a perfect segue on that one. And this is something that I experienced going through Gary Keller's hiring process. It's a formulaic part of their process, but they spend a lot of time focusing on what the ideal life looks like for you. And a book that you need to read, Maggie, you guys saw me playing on my phone while Eli was talking. If you look right here, it's called The Dream Manager. And I pulled it up in my Audible account because I wanted to make sure that I had the right title. You need to read that book. At the end of the day, there's only a certain amount of income that's required for people to have their basic human needs met. After that, that's not why they stay at the job. Because there comes to a certain point where money is not the driver. Like you said, even if we gave them more money, I'm not sure that would make the difference.
Mm-hmm.
That book really highlights what it takes to ask people, what's your dream? And how can you now take what you're doing here with this organization and view it as a vehicle that allows your dream to come true? And they tell the story about this guy who's running this janitorial company. Literally, they're managing janitors, cleaning bathrooms, and they're wondering why the turnover is so high. And it wasn't until they sat down with individuals and said, what's your dream? They just assumed that it was more money. And they said, no, it was being able to, I don't know who this is. You are getting sent to voicemail. That they said, no, it was, being able to do this one specific thing for my family. And then being able to say, great, well, you showing up to work here every day allows you to set aside this amount of money, which over time will allow you to make that happen. And so and this was that without you and I going back and forth, Maggie, I'd be willing to bet that you have an opportunity to go deeper with your people to really understand what drives them, to really understand why they're working, what their big goal is, what makes them feel fulfilled and vibrant. Then finding a way to tie together what they're doing in this entry level position to that. For a personal experience, like when I was in medical sales, I was hating where I was at toward the end. And it wasn't until a mentor of mine, excuse the language, because this is literally what he said. He said, you're future fucking yourself. You're hating your stepping stone. There's no way you could get to being an entrepreneur if you hadn't been here first, because you needed to establish this foundation. And before you got here, you were here. And before you got here, you were here. Life is a series of stepping stones, but if you hate your stepping stone, you can never leap to that next milestone along your journey. How can you paint that picture for them so that they understand that they need to love their stepping stone? They need to love where they're at right now so that they can move forward with the right mindset. And I'm seeing her response, love everything, look up the book, sounds great. And she says she loves me too. Okay, maybe she didn't say that, but I felt it. Okay. I want to open it up.
There's one last piece I want to touch on that. It's like, because I see that she's in a supervisor role. Two things that have been told to me in the influence, camp, because one of the main things that I do, and I've just finished my influence program, so I'm really in this influence mindset. When we think of influence, there's four levels. One is influencing yourself. Second is influencing one-to-one. Third level influence is influencing you to a group. And then the fourth level influence is what I call legendary influence. And that's when we hear a name like Martin Luther King. He's been dead a long time, but there's still a feeling, even though he's not there with us. You think about maybe somebody in your family that's passed on, there's still a feeling. Their life, and who they were, that one time you interacted with them, to have legendary influence. Look at Mother Teresa, Gandhi, we still feel them. There's people in my life that have influenced me so powerfully, and they're not there riding my ass all the time. Because the time that I was with them was so powerful that it stayed with me. And that's the purpose of your weekly meeting. To make sure that you're saying things, and there's your language, to their goals and dreams, and really see that what they're doing today is part of something bigger. To feel that sense of connection and that tribal connection. So that's the last piece. That's the hardest piece. Level 4 leadership, but that should be the goal for all of us.
Jason asked a question a little while ago. What's one of the most powerful questions you ask yourself to be able to get focused on where you want to go? And in the meantime, everybody else, submit your questions because I want to finish strong.
Yeah, it's just, it's like, it's so easy to get distracted. And Lou Holtz said this to me one time years ago. And he says, what does it mean to win? It's WIN, what's important now. Mm-hmm. So it kind of goes to that one thing. What's most important right now? when I'm at the gym, I'm thinking about my body. I see people in companies, and I say this every day. People go home and they think about work, and they go to work, and guess what they think about? They think about home. It's like they're never anywhere. It's like if you're going to be here, be here. And so I've systematized my day when I'm interacting with human beings. And this is where a lot of my confidence comes from. When you think about people that are self-conscious, it means they're conscious of themselves. When I'm out there speaking, or even right now, I have no internal dialogue going on. So I'm completely focused on what's right in front of me, what's most important now. And when you get outside of yourself, you start to, because I'm in front of the room and because I'm the most certain person there, even though I'm talking, I notice everything in the room more than everyone else. So I'm completely focused outside of myself, and I've got an outcome. So at the end of each presentation that I do, or I'm meeting somebody or prospecting or whatever, I've got an outcome. And most people in life, 99% of people, you ask them what they want in life, they say, I don't know. Most people have no certainty, no outcome. I'm very clear. Clarity is power. So every portion of my day has an outcome. It's like, was it yesterday? It was Sunday, but I worked and I wrote down when I got up, I said, today's a money day. Today's a money day. It has a certain amount of money. Some days it's a building day. Today was an organizational day. And then tonight will be a creative night. I've got some writing and things like that to do, but I just get really good at focusing on what's most important right now. And those other things are going to be there when I'm done doing this. So I've just had to discipline myself.
I love it. And LaTanya just shared a question, which first and foremost, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. And I was actually going to call on you because I was going to say, let's hear from some people who haven't asked anything yet. You asked, do either of you have any creative exercises that you use in order to offer new courses and or value? And I'm going to field this one first, Eli. I've been modeling it. I've been modeling it for you during this entire thing. I mentioned that Eli and I had a plan in terms of what we were going to do when we came in here with content. I threw that out the window because before this, I'm asking myself, what can I do to bring the most value to you? And the reality is I don't have a crystal ball. I have an empty wine glass right here because my wife and I decided to celebrate the middle of the day today, but I don't have a crystal ball. So I'd rather just ask you. So LaTanya, if you are looking to create a course or a service for people, identify who those people are first and foremost and ask them and then pre-sell it. In episode 95 recently, I announced the fact that there are so many of you who point blank individually said, I want you to do an event. That I said, great, let's throw it out there. And I said, if you went to mentipodcast.com/secret event, I think was the URL, there's an application process there. I'm getting people pre-committed to the event. I don't have a date for the event yet. I have no idea what the material is going to be for the event yet. All I know is that I'm going to get the right people in the room. We're going to pick a date once we have the right people, and I will customize the event to the people in the room. Because then I will exceed every freaking person's expectations. I will blow them out of the water because nobody else is crafting an event that way. They're picking the lineup. They're picking the agenda and then hoping that people are happy. That's the wrong way to do it. LaTanya. I'm going to totally jack that. She put the phonetics in there. But anyways, for you, go to the people who you're interested in serving first, figure out what their pain is, talk to them about the solution, get their feedback on the solution, have them pay for it in advance so that they commit to it, and then you create it.
That's awesome.
So, anything to add? Dirty Santa?
Yeah, it's just, there's so many information products out there and, everything. So it's like something that resonates with you. There's a lot of problems in the world. You can think what's something that inspires you, but, that really fits a need, based on the people you talk to every day. And when, Tony's created everything that he's created, as I've created everything that I'm creating now, there's the operating system of creation comes down to these two questions. And you should break these down if you don't want your product or service to become a commodity. And so even when I'm creating stuff, I do some market research, and I look at everything that's out there, and I really get a sense of, what are people spending on it? And there's two things I want to touch on here. But first, I asked myself this question: what's great about it? What's great about their stuff? Meaning, what can I use? What can I take? What is working? What's not? It's like what's there that's not good or bad in my opinion, but what's useful to people? What aspects of this product or service that are really great? And so, how can I utilize that? And then I asked the second question: how could I make this even better? So I look at everything that's out there, and I think, what could I do to make it better? Anything I've ever done, I don't want to be just like everybody else. I want to do something that's better. And so I'm setting the bar differently than most people, because I'm not trying to just repackage some bullshit and sell it. I want to create something that's better. And so I think everybody's product is good. I mean, if somebody uses the fitness product or whatever it is, they're going to get some results. But when it's not working, when they're not doing it, why aren't they doing it? How could I see that not as a bad thing, but as an opportunity to make mine even better? The Apple iPhone that I'm talking on now, they were dominating. Not so much now, but they had the Apple iPhone. They didn't just say, hey, we're the best. They said, how do we make this even better? So every generation of the iPhone was outselling the previous version, because they created a culture asking that question. And remember what I said earlier, questions control focus. So the question they consistently ask themselves: how do we make it even better? How do we make it even better? So when you think about something, how do you make it even better? And here's how you can make it better. It's like there's certain strategies that you're going to put together in your course, and tactics, telling people what to do, strategies and tactics to get in shape, to make money, to buy real estate, whatever it is you want to do, to influence people, to be the best manager in pharmaceuticals, whatever. There's certain strategies and tactics, things that you can do all day. But realize this, that the course, the information, the strategy, all that can become commoditized. So a lot of people, even for me in the fitness space, everybody's talking about intermittent fasting and, like ketogenic diet, high fats, it's all the same stuff. If you want to get lean, do high intensity interval training, it's all the same bullshit, and it's all great bullshit. I love it. I do it every day, and it does work. But speaking of fat loss, 67% of people in America are fat. They're obese, they're overweight. But is that a lack of strategy? You can't walk 1 mile in any city and not go by a CrossFit gym. And, every year there's 1,000 new books that come out on diet and exercise. Is it a lack of strategy? No, the strategies are everywhere. People go on YouTube and they can get the strategy. You can get for 50 cents worth of late library fees. They can get $1 billion worth of information. It's like, it's all there and it's all free. We're in the information age, and a lot of people are drowning in information. So it's never lack of strategy. The strategies are always there. But what stops people from utilizing the strategy, even people that take my stuff or whatever, what stops the people from following through and utilizing the information in a way where they can get measurable results is often their story. A story about it's too hard, I'm too stupid, I'm not pretty, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough time. They have a story that becomes a breaker switch that stops them from utilizing strategy. But when we look at the most successful people, it's like an Oprah, these people have had crazy stories. My home is in Beverly Hills, and I meet people who've come from great families, great education, great parents, great everything, lots of money, and they do nothing with their life. And then I meet somebody else who's had every kind of life disadvantage, terrible, rape, abuse, all these things, but they become very successful. So biography, our story, doesn't equal destiny. It's not what happens to us, it's how we deal with what happens to us, and that's always a choice. That comes down to personal responsibility. So what stops people from using the strategy is often their story. And so how do we break through the story is with our state. And every single one of you on this call right now, have had days where you feel unstoppable. You're amazing. Like, you feel like you can do no wrong. And then you have other days where you're like, why the frick did I even get out of bed? And some of you have had more of the latter days, more of the why did I get even out of bed days, because you're in a state. And that has become a habitual pattern of focus, of physiology, how you move your body, what you're eating, and language and meaning, what you're making things mean. So that's developed your emotions. So how do you break through? There's people that have had no strategy, they got a result. There's people that have had the worst story, worst challenge. What got them through all of it, where they got the result, was their state. When people said there was no way, I said, I'm going to find a way. If I can't find one, I'll make one. And so that's a resource. It is never a lack of resources, time, money, energy, information. It's never the lack of resources. It's always our lack of resourcefulness. And so how do we find and condition those resources within ourselves? And the ultimate resource is not money or time or any of that. The ultimate resource is human emotion. It's like, it's what's driving, we get married, we get divorced. It's what we start wars, we end wars. There's an emotion out there, and the dominant emotion of a lot of people out there that are not getting results is fear. And so as influencers, we've got to magnify people's fears. We're really get them associated to it. And then we heal their fears with our product and service. And that's how we're able to really give people influence and impact and change the world. But we got to get people associated to their pain. It's not enough to go out there and give people unsolicited advice, thinking that our strategy is the best. First, we need to get people. When I'm selling people into my own stuff, I never offer anybody anything. I really get them associated to their pain, and then I say, what would you like to do about this? And and then they tell me. Then they say, well, can you help me? I said, well, here's, I never make an offer. I never make offers for anything. And so that's you want to get people associated, and they see. If you want to change people's lives in your family or in your peer group, the best way that you do it is not to try to save everybody. It's by living a freaking phenomenal, badass life. To use the cheesy example, be the change that you want to see in the world, and people will see that you're living it. They'll see the congruency in you. They'll magnate towards you, and they will ask you, wow, I want some of that. What are you doing? Well, I was, and you tell them your story, and then maybe you ask them some questions, get them even more associated, and then it becomes a natural progression for them to buy your stuff, because it's not just the strategy, that's the commodity. You get them out of their story, but what you're really doing as an influencer, and when you create your product, is you're changing their state. And whether it's an actor, an entertainer, we pay people a lot of money who change our state. Tony Robbins, when you see him, on stage and there's thousands of people, they're moving all around. They're not sitting there bored. You hear some like Michael Jackson, you hear some of these people, you feel something different. So as influencers, we've got to change people's states, because we all do things for emotional reasons, and then we justify it with logic. You can't logically sell people into your product. You have to emotionally connect with them, and that's when it will become the next best logical decision to buy what you have based on what you've done to them emotionally first.
So we're gonna close this out, but you gave me something, sparked me, because this is something that I've been working on for myself, and also with Amy, who's right here. Come here, honey. Come here. Yeah, come look in the camera. Come say hi to everybody. You're on camera. We talked a lot about how can we start to unleash that side in us. And this is where, the benefits of having Eli as a friend. He's the guy who sells all the tickets for Tony. And I realized probably one of the greatest regrets I would ever have in my lifetime is if I didn't see the guy live. And so Eli is on the ground. He's promoting Unleash the Power Within, which is Tony's signature event that focuses specifically on this. How do you rewrite that story? How do you really dive into who you are to do that inner work so that you can finally unleash that internal power that you have? I have set aside a block of tickets at a discounted rate because the deadline was passing, knowing that there were going to be certain people who would be interested in going. If that's you, shoot me an email and we can have a conversation offline. And it'll be in November. So I'll be in San Jose. Are you attending it this time, Eli?
Yeah, and I'm going to be using a lot of my influence things on Tony, but that day, the 12th, the Saturday, is the big day. The reason people are coming here from over 100 countries around the world, people are flying here to San Jose just to have this experience, because information doesn't change our lives, experiences do. Everybody on this call has had experiences, good and bad, that have shaped their thinking and feeling and their identity and their emotions. And so what you provide is this experience. People come from all over the world, and they're going to have their lives changed, go through this process. On the third day is the big day, and that is November 12th, and that is my birthday.
Yeah, it is.
And that night I'll go out with Tony at like 2 a.m. It's when I always spend a little time with him, and I will be giving him a transcript of my book and asking him to write the foreword to it. So yeah, I will definitely be there.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, if any of you are interested in coming with me to UPW in November, shoot me an email, one off, and we can discuss the particulars. But outside of that, man, Eli, thank you so much, brother. For anybody who has not listened to the episode that went live today, when he talks about like, it doesn't matter what happened to you in the past, it's what you do with it moving forward. Like, listen to his story because it is freaking nuts. With that, brother, thank you so much.
Thank you, buddy. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it's let me know if you have a few minutes to talk later. But thanks so much. Hope you guys got some value out of that. I wanted to just give you some insights and some real tools that I think could change your thinking a little bit.
Beautiful. All right, people, I will send an email out. I think our next call is, wait for it, drum roll, please. It is the 29th of this month. So I will see you all in 2 weeks. Hugs and kisses to all of you. Thanks.